So now let's do an exercise. We did it last year. It's our NFL tier list. We're going to place each team in one of the following categories. We must come to a consensus. That's kind of what I want to do here is make sure we are uniform in where we're putting the teams. And the categories we're going to sort them into: Super Bowl contenders, division winners, playoff teams, outside looking in, and then picking in the top 5 of the draft. So not necessarily win the Super Bowl, but contending for a berth in the Super Bowl. Who's going to win the division? But not really compete for a deep run in the postseason. Playoff teams who think are just going to kind of make it there, but not. We don't think they're going to win the division. They have to get in as a wild card. Outside looking in, that's pretty self-explanatory, and then just the worst of the worst. So looking in at our top tier here, Super Bowl contenders. I go with the Bills, Bengals, Chiefs, Eagles, and 49ers. Those are my Super Bowl contenders. Those are the teams I could see hoisting the Lombardi Trophy at the end of the year. I know you were talking about not being as high on the Bills. I think they're going to still be there. The Bengals. No reason to think. I know, there is, there's been a little bit of worry in Cincinnati because of the Joe Burrow injury. He's not going to miss significant time. So no reason to think they're not going to be there again. Obviously, the Chiefs is self-explanatory. The Eagles, I don't see a scenario where the Eagles don't at least get back to the NFC Championship game. There's really nobody else that contends with them, and I'm also a little bit the team I'm willing to debate the Bills, but I'm also willing to debate the 49ers just because we saw it's one of those things where, like, what Brock Purdy did last year was awesome. It was amazing, really exciting to see. With a full offseason to prepare, will we see any sort of regression in year 2? Because the 49ers have said, we're all in. We traded Trey Lance. We got rid of Jimmy Garoppolo. It's Brock Purdy's show now. I mean, I know they've got Sam Darnold behind him now too. But if you're going to Sam Darnold, things are not good in San Francisco. No. So yeah, those are my 5 teams: the Bills, Bengals, Chiefs, and Eagles and 49ers.
So I like that tier for you. The only change I have in that one is I do not have the Bills up there. I only have the Bengals, the Chiefs, the Eagles, and the 49ers. Look, it is a 4-team race, to be honest. Those 4 are the cream of the crop when it comes to the NFL right now. And there's no way around it. And I think you could even put the Chiefs and the Eagles just a step above that as well, just because of the talent we see for both of those teams. Young quarterbacks that are exciting, playmakers scattered all over the field, defenses that are amazing or could be amazing, especially on the Eagles side. But I'm just not as high on the Bills. As the season progressed last year, it just felt like they fell apart more and more and more. And I'm afraid that that's going to carry over to this year. It's one of those teams that we've talked about them so much. This team is a contender. This team is a contender. And constantly they falter. They fall flat. They just don't have, they're missing this one piece. And then they don't go out and address that piece. Oh, now they're missing this piece, and they don't go out and address this piece. It's just like eventually at some point that they become stale. And they haven't really, in my mind, done much to change that. So for now, I'm bumping them out of my Super Bowl contenders, and I'm going with the Bengals, Chiefs, Eagles, and 49ers.
See, I think the argument that because I'm trying to decide whether I want to be more of a stand up a little bit more for the Bills, or whether I want to agree with you, because with on the one hand for the Bills you could say, well, they're the game against the there's going to be the Jets are going to be tougher obviously this year, so that could possibly bring them down a little bit. They could lose the division, which means their path to the Super Bowl might not be, not to say it was necessarily easy, but I mean because last year, well, after they beat the Dolphins, which the Dolphins were a team that did beat them in the regular season as well, And I mean, I know there, some people would also contend like, hey, it was the Dolphins, but they were playing their third string quarterback and still hung in against the Bills last year in the postseason. But also then the very next week they have to play the Bengals. And but on the other hand, is this Bills team? We had this Bills team. Is really all that much? I know that they kind of makes your point as well about not addressing some of their needs, but are they really that much different from a team that we were high on in years past? Because I mean,
the thing, though.
Because they lost games in the regular season to the Jets last year. I don't think either team is going to sweep that that matchup this year. I think they could potentially sweep the Patriots. They could potentially. I'm not. Who knows? Tua's health is obviously a big point of contention. The Bills could potentially sweep. I mean, they're a couple of plays away from sweeping the Dolphins last year too, and getting an extra win and possibly being the 1 seed in the AFC. So I don't think all that much has changed from the Bills to make me, not so much has changed from the Bills to make me say, okay, they're definitely not going to be in the mix to make the Super Bowl.
See, for me, it's we've been so high on them for so long. And it's the same story year after year after year after year. So it's kind of like fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on you type thing. And I'm not dropping them completely out of the picture.
I know.
They're in the picture. They're like fringe of Super Bowl contenders and division winners. But I'm just bumping them down because look, the 4 teams I have up there in the Super Bowl contenders have been the 4 teams that have been in the Super Bowl over the last few years.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, you know what? I think the Bills are the team I was kind of the weakest on so I don't have a problem bumping them down to division winners. So yeah. So those are the 4 teams we have. The 4 Super Bowl contending teams we have are the Bengals, Chiefs, Eagles, and 49ers, which means as we move to the division winners, we've got now these are teams not necessarily who definitely will win the division, but who we think could win their division this season. Of course, we've got the Bills there now. The Ravens, Jags, Titans, Vikings, Lions, Falcons, Saints, Panthers. Yes, that's 3 of the NFC South teams because I'm like, they could all theoretically win their division. Awesome. Yeah, so they're in there kind of, it feels weird to put them there. Like we said earlier, a lot of people high on the Lions, but I also think the Vikings are not going to go away, especially, I mean, the weapons they have. I know Dalvin Cook is gone, but they have, and Adam Thielen are gone, but they add Jordan Addison. Justin Jefferson's still going to have a great year. Kirk Cousins, I watched quarterback and I kind of like Kirk Cousins now. And so there's some things to be to enjoy there. Like we said earlier, AFC South is also a toss up between the Jags and the Titans. You could say that either way. I still think I lean Jaguars there. And then the Ravens and the Bengals. Of course, the Bengals are a tier higher, but the Ravens I think are also going to be in the mix to win the AFC North. So those are my division winning teams.
So mine's a little bit different. I have the Bills, the Ravens, the Jags, the Titans, the Vikings, the Lions, the Saints, the Jets, and the Steelers up there.
Okay.
I'm not ready to put the Falcons and the Panthers up there yet, just because that division is just so weak.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the Jets have a real strong opportunity. It felt like last year the thing that was holding them back was quarterback play, and now they've got that, and they've added really good weapons. That defense is going to be really good again. That team has the potential, in my opinion, to win the AFC East.
Getting this out of the way, I will agree that if we're bumping the Bills down, we also have to boost the Jets up. So I'm willing. I had them in my playoff teams because I was set on the Bills winning that division, but I'm also willing to bump the Jets up because we're saying it's more of a toss up. We're not as sold on the Bills. So I'm with you there.
And I am moving the Steelers up there just because that's going to be a tough team to beat. I mean, yeah, they've had some competition at running back, but still, you got Najee Harris at running back. You got Kenny Pickett at quarterback. George Pickens looks like he's about ready to go complete Megatron on everybody. um, that team has the potential to ruin another team's season. So I'm putting them up there in that category. But like I said, I'm bumping the Falcons and the Panthers down. I'm not sold on them. I think the Saints right now are the clear favorite in the NFC South. But otherwise, the other teams that I mentioned, I'm putting up in the division winners.
I'll move the Steelers up too because I was honestly that was a team where I wasn't entirely sure where to put them. I wasn't super confident in saying they would be in the mix for the division, but I also thought they could potentially make the postseason. So I don't know when I did my playoff prediction because of course you know me, I had to like pick my 7 playoff teams and then have a bracket in my head to determine who I thought was going to get to the AFC Championship, NFC Championship, and the Super Bowl. So I can't remember if they were in that part of the exercise of my brain, but I know I was kind of trying to decide. But even then, I mean, I don't know that I want to move the Browns up, but then if you're saying the Steelers, do we say the Browns too?
No, I don't even have the Browns in that. I have the Browns in the outside looking in.
Okay, well, more in a moment on that. But yeah, so I'm willing to move the Jets up, like we said earlier, the Steelers up. The team that I don't want to budge on because with the Falcons, you have I really am intrigued by the talent. I mean, I know we've been waiting for Kyle Pitts to break out for the longest time, and he's been okay in flashes, not okay in other flashes. But even then, you've got Drake London, you've got Bijan Robinson in the backfield. You've got some talent there. The reason why I'm willing to kind of listen to an argument of why not to have them up there in the division race is because of who their quarterback is. We don't know how Desmond Ridder will look. Their defense is supposed to be better this year as well. But the team I don't really want to budge on is maybe I just can't quit Frank Reich. Maybe that's what it is. But the Panthers. I think the Panthers. They've got. I mean, I think Bryce Young is going to be good. I think they put some good talent around him. Miles Sanders, Adam Thielen. I know that they're the other team's castaways, but they've got a quarterback. They've got some solid talent around them.
I mean, they're cast.
I'm just saying they are by virtue of. I think
the Colts would love to have an Adam Thielen or a Miles.
I'm just saying by virtue of they were cast away from higher teams. Yeah, from tougher teams in the division or the conference. They've been cast away, but I still think that's a good cast of talent around them. It's. I mean, yes, Bijan Robinson and Drake London might technically be better, but also the quarterback for the Panthers is better. So, but I think I lean a little bit more that way. So, I think it's the Panthers and the Saints. I mean, I also think the Falcons too. I'm willing to move them down, but I really think the Panthers are going to be in the mix.
Okay.
I mean, look, I got to convince you.
I'll give you the Falcons because I feel like that running game for the Falcons is going to be really, really good. And you add in the addition of Desmond Ridder, who is more of a mobile quarterback. I think you're going to see that emergence of Kyle Pitts actually having a solid quarterback throwing to him. I'll give you the Falcons. I'll keep the Falcons up in the division winners.
But see, they had a mobile quarterback last year, Mariota, and still.
Yeah, I mean, Mariota he hasn't been serviceable. The verdict is still out on Desmond Ridder because we haven't really seen him, but we know Mariota is what Mariota is. And he was kind of a stopgap last year to not have to start a rookie. It's kind of like what the Colts fans were expecting when Gardner Minshew was signed, that Gardner Minshew was going to be a stopgap until Anthony Richardson was ready to play.
So you're going Falcons, but you're not going Panthers. You're not budging on Panthers?
I'm not budging on Panthers just because there's some question marks on that defense. And I need to know that Bryce Young is going to be able to hold up for an entire NFL season.
Okay. All right. So we've got just to unmuddy the waters that may have been muddied. We have in division winners, we have the Ravens, Jaguars, Titans, Vikings, Lions. We've got the Falcons, Saints. We're moving the Jets up and we're moving the Steelers up.
Yes.
Okay. Playoff teams. These are our playoff teams. I've got, excluding the teams we've already mentioned, the Dolphins, the Chargers. I've got the Browns. I've got the Cowboys, the Giants, and the Seahawks. Because I don't think there's going to be two teams from the like AFC South or the NFC South. So basically, both of those are only going to get their division winner in. So that's why I don't have the Panthers there.
Got it.
So yeah, those are the playoff teams I have remaining.
Yeah, so I like that. The only change I think I would make, drop the Browns down to the outside looking in and move the Broncos up to the playoff teams.
See,
or no, scratch that. I mean the Bears.
The Bears. I'm okay moving the Bears up.
Yeah.
Where were they? What was their record last year? It's escaping me. I can't remember. It was like, well, they would have had to be worse than the Colts. So it would have had to been like, because they were the number one pick in the draft. So they were what?
No, they 3-14.
No, they didn't trade for that. They
traded out of it. That's right.
Yeah. They were 3-14, right? So I think So that means that Justin Fields is going to take a leap by 6 wins.
Yeah, but what they brought in some talent around him. I don't know.
I mean, I do think the Bears will be in the mix. It was because this is what I did a lot of times. I kept looking back at like who are their interconference matchups this year. It's the it was the NFC North versus they also play the AFC West. So they'll play the Chiefs. They'll play the Chargers. They'll play the Broncos.
Okay. All right. You know
Plus
what?
games against their division. So I think that's why I was a little bit more hesitant on going with
the
Bears.
So I think for me, then I guess the only change I would make is dropping the Browns down to the outside looking in.
Here's the argument I would make for the Browns, because I think they were right there on the doorstep of the postseason last year, and I mean I'm not saying this is a disparaging comment at all, because I love me some Jacoby Brissett, but they were in the playoff mix because of Jacoby Brissett. They get a full season of Deshaun Watson. You've got Nick Chubb. I know Amari Cooper is like 150 years old, but he's still good. He's still there. I think the Browns can be in the mix for the postseason. I think they can be in the playoffs. I think when you stack them up against the other teams we have in the playoff category, I mean, because these are all and the playoff teams are all teams we think can make it to the postseason, but also are question marks. We're not ready to say they can contend for their division. They're gonna get in by the hair of their chinny chin chin. It's gonna be now. I mean, I guess excluding the Cowboys, because that's just because they're not in the same. The Eagles are gonna win that division, but like the Giants, yes, the Giants should be in the postseason, but I think you can make a case either way that they can miss. Maybe what we saw from Daniel Jones was a fluke. Maybe they're out. I don't think they will be adding the likes of Darren Waller and having Saquon, that situation figured out. So that's why I have them in there. The Seahawks, they could take a step back with Geno, but I also think, they were in last year, and I don't the NFC is not super deep, so they can possibly make it back. That's why I'm going with the Browns, because they're going to have a full season of Deshaun Watson under their belt, and they're going to have an opportunity to. I think, like I said, I think they had 6 or 7 wins last year. A full season of Deshaun for me is worth at least 2 to 3 wins.
See, for me, the reason I don't have them in that category and I have them in the outside looking in is because of how good the top 3 teams are in that division. That is, to me, is what will keep them from making the playoffs or making a push for the playoffs for a wild card spot, because you have the Bengals, you have the Ravens, you have the Steelers. Those teams are, in my opinion, a lot better than the Browns right now. And so by with that logic, that puts the Browns then down at the bottom of that division, which leaves them out of the playoff picture.
See, I think there's a
That's
chance
what that's where I'm looking.
I,
That's how I'm viewing the Browns. I don't doubt that the Browns are going to be a good team this year. It's just their division is so deep and has got a lot of talent in it. It's going to be hard for them to overcome that. Unless for some reason the Ravens come out and just are a complete flop because of age and everything. I don't know, but that's the only thing I can see. And that's I mean, the Browns do have talent. They do. It's just I'm a little bit more confident in the talent of the Steelers, of the Ravens, and definitely of the Bengals. So that's why I have the Browns on the outside looking in. But they are one of those teams that they are right there on the edge of being in the playoff hunt.
But that's what I'm saying. Like you can't make it work in your head at all that they could potentially be in, and so one of those other teams would be out. That's all.
I guess the Steelers could be that team, even though I have them up in the division winners category.
Yeah, potentially. But so
okay. So okay. I'll keep the Browns there. It's just that when we get to these next two categories, I do have a few. I have some changes there that I think are more reasonable than moving the Browns down to the outside looking in.
Okay, so we're sticking with our playoff teams as the Dolphins, Chargers, Browns, Cowboys, Giants, and Seahawks.
Yes.
Okay. So looking at the outside looking in, I've got the Patriots, Colts, Broncos, Bears, Packers. Those are the outside looking in where I don't think they'll be in the top 5 of the draft, but I also don't think they'll be in the postseason.
So for me, outside looking in, I have the Pats, Broncos, Bears, Packers, Raiders, and Rams. Like I said, I'm so basically there. I'm moving the Colts down and moving the Raiders and the Rams up. I'm more confident in the Raiders than a lot of other people are. I think they've got some stability. I mean, last year it was basic. We all knew Derek Carr was, he wasn't going to be a Raider much longer, and it was just kind of a transition year. Oh yeah, Derek Carr's now and with the Saints. So, but I think the Raiders don't have as much uncertainty in their locker room, and that's going to help them. I think believe it or not, I do think the ownership of Tom Brady with that organization is going to be helpful as well. And in the Rams, I mean, yeah, they're playing in a decently tough division. I just feel like the Rams have the talent there and have enough talent to stay out of the top 5. Doesn't mean they're not going to be picking in the top 10. Right. I just don't think they're going to be picking in the top 5.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Is like, because it's kind of a I don't want to say semantics argument when you're talking about just like, well, I mean, I don't have them in the top 5, but they might be picking 6th. Like that's kind of where you end up with a lot of these teams. I'm okay moving the Raiders up. I think that especially with the Josh Jacobs thing figured out, they could move up. I think I want to be a stickler on the Colts and the Rams. I think the Colts are going to be better than what people think. I think that I've seen a lot of people a little bit higher on them. I can't remember what you had them in your record prediction last week. What was that? I know mine was 6. I can't remember.
I think mine was 3 or 4. It was 4.
Right. So I mean, even then, even if we split the difference and go 5, that doesn't necessarily mean they'll be in the top 5 of the draft, but I guess that means they'll be close. So I guess I'm willing to split the difference and say that they might fall back down into that picking in the top 5 category. But
look, for me, the Colts, the talent's there. I'm just worried that the locker room is going to be disrupted by the Jonathan Taylor drama.
That's a good point. Okay.
And that could end up dividing that locker room. And right now, with the Colts going into week 1, their starting running back is Evan Hall, which there is nothing wrong with that. I think Evan Hall is going to have a surprisingly good season and is going to be one of those players that everybody's going to go, man, I wish we would have drafted him. He was a sneaky good draft pick. And there's even an article that came out today. I forget where I saw it. It was just scrolling through Twitter that said it was the title was essentially Evan Hall and Anthony Richardson could make up a potential deadly duo. And I could see that along the way. But for me, with the Colts, the uncertainty at running back, one, and just the drama that it's going to be causing. It's good. I mean, it's going to be a distraction to that locker room because all reporters are going to focus on until there is some sort of move made is about Jonathan Taylor. Everything's going to be about Jonathan Taylor, and that will eventually cause some breaks within the locker room because you're going to have guys that are going to be like for him holding out or doing what he's doing. And there's other guys who are like, just get back here and play. It's not about just you. Come back with this team. We need you. And that could eventually cause some division within the locker room, which when you have division in the locker room is when things kind of start going south.
Talked about intriguing divisions. That is not an intriguing division for the Colts. You know what? That's a very good point. I didn't really consider that. So I'm willing. And plus, we shouldn't debate super hard about the teams that aren't going to be in the postseason. So yeah, I'm good with moving the Rams and Raiders up and moving the Colts down, which means our outside looking in is the Pats, Broncos, Bears, Packers, Rams, and Raiders. And our picking in the top 5 in the draft falls out as the Texans, Colts, Commanders, Buccaneers, and Cardinals. I don't think there's a whole lot.
That's 5.
Yeah, that is 5. Yeah, because I think the Commanders were a team that I think so a lot of the other projections teams were a little higher on. I'm not sold with who they have at quarterback and the rest of that division.
And the fact that everybody's wanting them to trade Chase Young, that team.
And I love me some Baker Mayfield. I didn't want to put the Bucs there, but I think that's where they'll be. So yeah, that is our tier list. I hope you guys think that it's a good one because I think we ended up in a pretty good place, and we'll check back maybe towards the end of the season, maybe in our Super Bowl wrap up, see where we were right and where we were wrong.